several different items in here that I want to go through. And you got to keep in mind that we could go through many, many rabbit holes, and every scenario is not exactly the same. There's different processes and different little hitches that you get into that could either expedite your situation or prolong your situation. So let's go to the next page, and our first page should tell us that what is a public report, what is a subdivision disclosure report, and basically what that is, as you read your screen, it is a license to sell. Just like you get a driver's license, any type of license that you have to apply for, when you are a subdivider, you have to apply for this license. This is called a public report. And that public report is anyone, you could go to the next page, I believe, anyone who is going to offer for sale or lease. The very first item on in the statutes is 322181. Before offering subdivided lands for sale or lease, the subdivider shall notify the commissioner in writing of the subdivider's intention. The notice shall contain, and then it goes on to tell you everything that this public report is going to contain. Now, remember that says before offering for sale or lease. Back in the day, it used to be that if you sold properties up to 5, then realized, I'm going to buy a 6th one and I'm going to build and sell on it, then you would apply for your public report. So the first 5 were not a problem as long as you disclose that information. In January 2018, that became a problem. We no longer were we able to sell and do that. The first thing that happened was it would go into investigations if they saw that you had been selling without a public report. Wasn't your intention, you're a mom and pop place, we deal with a lot of mom and pop places. Wasn't your intention to do that, it's just something that happened. You built a house, you sold a house. You built a house, you sold a house. Oh, then a real estate agent comes up and says, hey, you realize that you've done 5 of these now and you're on your 6th one. Do you have a public report? What is that? We have no idea. So the importance of that public report is that you are licensed. And if you are not licensed, you do not have a public report, you are going to be fined. It will go into investigations. If you are filing for an expedited public report and it goes to investigations, you can wait another 6 to 9 weeks before anything is rectified in order for you to sell and get that public report. So let's go to the next page there. Here's the definitions. Any person who offers for sale or lease 6 or more lots, parcels, fractional interests in subdivision, or causes land to be subdivided into a subdivision for the subdivider for others, undertakes to develop a subdivision but does not include a public agency or officer authorized by law to create the subdivision. So if I just said that just a minute ago, if I have built a house and sold a house, built a house and sold a house, and I go over 5, as soon as you do your 6th one and you apply for a public report, you are most likely going to go to investigations, and investigations will fine you. Unless, I think we've seen some changes here in the recent past with a whole new crew of people that are working for the Department of Real Estate. And it's not a large crew. Keep in mind that their populations are minimal. I think there might be 3 to 5 people working in the Department of Real Estate for the public report process. So they have a ton, just a ton on their shoulders. And when you think of that, there's only a few of them doing this, and there's people all around the state doing these public reports, these filings. They are overwhelmed. So they have been flexible, more flexible than in the past. And a lot of times, if you feel like we're the people that are applying for that public report. So if a developer feels like, you know what, I shouldn't have to do this, and this is the reason why. if that developer, in the past, we would have said, do not call the Department of Real Estate. Do not call them. You're going to create problems for yourself. Let us handle it. These days, if they call in and say, look, this is why I feel like I shouldn't have to do this, they might be bendable. They might see things in a different way than in the past. So we're seeing some different changes, and we're all abiding by them, and we're trying to make it easier on the department. So let's go to the next page. This is something that just an example of what will happen when you go to investigations. Now, when you go into investigations, because you've already sold, your intentions were to sell. It doesn't matter if your intentions were to do one. As soon as you get 6, that was your intention, was to sell. You are going to go to investigations, and you're going to get a letter like this. And they have the ability to fine you from $1,000 to $5,000 per infraction. So that being said, I went to a subdivision that was being marketed. They had 19 lots, and they had all 19 lots for sale, and they didn't have a public report on it. So had they gone to investigation, they would have had 19 issues against them, violations, and they would have been they would have charged $1,000 to $5,000 per infraction. So you see how much this could really blow up and really hurt somebody whose intent was right, but they just didn't know the law. So let's go to the next page. Why do I care about a subdivision disclosure report? Knowing when and why you have to have them. That's the important thing. In a certain area in Arizona right now, we're getting a lot of phone calls. And the phone calls are, what do you mean I have to do this? Why do I have to do it? The guy down the street hasn't done one. Well, the facts matter. And if the facts are the guy did 3 and then he moved on, you don't need a public report. If you're not doing 6 or more, you do not need a public report. But if you take title or you have an option for 6 or more lots, then it is your responsibility to go ahead and get a subdivision report, public report. Let's go to the next one. Subdivision disclosure applications submitted and issued by the ADRE by year. In 2019, there were, this is a little bit older, but in 2019, I believe this was by the half point, it was 151. But you could see how it dropped a little bit, but it was just really taking off by the time we got into this COVID thing. So numbers were up extremely, especially in Maricopa County and Mojave County. And I think it was Yuma and Pima County were up. I think those were the largest ones. Let's go to the next page. So you can see on this page right here, it tells you how many subdivisions are in each county. And if you look at those numbers right there, just for Maricopa or Mojave, those are a lot of numbers, especially when you look at Maricopa, and there's, I believe my eyes aren't as good, but I think it says 23,000. Well, 23,000 in Maricopa County, you understand that because it's a metropolitan area. And then when you get down to some of the smaller counties, you see lower numbers. But still, some of those are really, look at Cochise County right there with 1,255. And they have a ton of BLM land down there. So that's a whole lot of subdivisions for these smaller counties. Let's go to the next page. This is, you know, you could start clicking through these until we get out of Mojave, Carrie, and you're going to see several pages of this. This is just an example of what was done in Mojave County in 2018, 2019. All right, so the type of reports that are associated with subdivisions, you have the Subdivision Disclosure Report. This report can go 2 ways, one of 2 ways. You're either doing a standard report or you are doing an expedited report. That being said, a standard report means that your people are going to be selling vacant land and they will be selling improved land. Now that's a big deal right there. Here's a rabbit hole. See, we're going off on a little rabbit hole. Improved land does not mean that the land is improved because the assurances, your water, your curbing, your electric, your gas, everything is run to the lot line. That does not make that lot improved. An improved lot is a lot with a home on it. A vacant lot is a lot without a home on it. So if you are, your customer is gonna offer for sale vacant lots, sell them so people can build their own homes, they need to do a standard report. That standard report is gonna take anywhere from a month to 3 months, depending on the load at the Department of Real Estate. An expedited filing means that you are only offering for sale improved lots. That means that the subdivider is building homes, selling them, building homes, selling it. That's all they're selling. They're doing all the building themselves. They're not selling a vacant lot for somebody else to build on. So that can go through an expedited process, which here lately the department has really been doing a great job on those. And expediteds are getting approved within a week to 2 weeks. So usually whenever you ask, are you offering vacant lots? And the guy says, well, we're gonna offer vacant lots and maybe build some lots. You really want them to think about that. Really think about that. Because it is gonna, if they're wanting to get on it right now, they're not gonna be able to get on it if they're selling vacant lots. If they were selling houses, they'd be expedited. A subsequent ownership means that Carrie did a subdivision filing. She's a subdivider, and she has a public report that was issued to her, her license to sell. And then along I come and I say, hey, Carrie, I'm a builder. I want to build on your lots. And she goes, okay, I'm going to do an option with you. I'll give you an option to buy any of these lots, first right of refusal. And if you build on those lots, you can sell on them. But what I need to do is a subsequent ownership. Subsequent ownership means that I could file for an exemption to say, I want to use Carrie's report. I want to piggyback off of it. That being said, if I piggyback off of Carrie's report, I am not allowed to amend that public report. The only person or entity that can amend a public report is who the original public report was issued to. I am solely by a subsequent ownership. It just means that I have the ability to give out that public report, use that public report in its entirety, but I cannot make any changes whatsoever. Now that same scenario, if Carrie gives me an option and I'm saying, okay, I have an option for 24 lots out of your 30, I'm just gonna buy all of those lots, but I don't like what you have on your public report. I want to make some changes. I cannot make those changes because it wasn't issued to me. I'm the subsequent owner. I don't have the right to change the public report that Carrie did. Therefore, I have to turn around and do my own public report. That being said, I could punch in, I could request Carrie's public report, and I can use some of that information that was done for that subdivision. Some of the requirements that you have to have is you have to have ADQ, your sanitary, ADWR, your water. You have to have a soils test. You have to have a flood and drainage letter. You have to have access. Those are all the things that I could pull from the previous report because it goes with that land and it's specifically for that, and I can use it for myself to file a public report. So, an amended subdivision disclosure report, and this is good for any of you that are out there. If you're an escrow officer or you're an agent and you have somebody looking into purchasing the remaining lots in a subdivision that hasn't been built out, okay? But the only way you could use a subsequent ownership is if the public report was issued within 5 years. If the public report was issued within 5 years, you can do a subsequent ownership. Anything outside of that 5 years, you have to file for a public report. That being said, if you have a client that is buying out the remaining lots in a subdivision that's already has not been built out, and he needs a public report. You could go to the seller who the public report was issued to and say, hey, you can amend this for anything. And one of the easiest things we know that we can do on a regular basis is we can amend the taxes. Taxes is the easiest thing because taxes are always changing. But any material changes to the public report calls for an amendment. If there's new restrictions, if there's amendment to restrictions, any material change that affects that public report calls for an amendment. An amendment, the cost of an amendment is $250. So it's an easy deal if you talk to your purchaser and say, hey, they could get you could get a subsequent owner's exemption and piggyback the report that already exists, as long as you don't want to make any changes. But it has to be amended to bring it up to date. That way, as soon as the amendment goes through, that 5-year expansion changes. So as soon as the amendment is approved, next thing you know, you get your purchaser, they can negotiate a deal and say, hey, to the seller, I'll pay for the $250. I don't care, just amend the report. The report gets amended, you pay the $250, he gets a subsequent ownership, no cost to him. He doesn't have to pay the extra cost of the ADWR, ADQ, engineer statements, your flood and drainage, soils test. All of those are big, big costs. And usually the costs on that stuff is, I usually tell people, I've had subdivisions that run through engineers that may cost $7,500. There may be subdivisions that cost $300,000. You know, it just varies. And the relationship with their engineer is very important. Conditional sales exemption. One of the conditional sales exemption is a subsequent owner's exemption. So when you're doing conditional sales, it costs $100. You're saying, I think that I should be exempt from this for this particular reason. And not meaning a subsequent ownership, but subsequent owners are exemptions. But a conditional sales exemption is you're telling the Department of Real Estate, you're writing them a letter and saying that, look, I should be exempt for these reasons, blah, blah, blah. And they either say yes or no. Either way, it's going to cost you $100. Lot reservations. Let's backtrack because I just thought of something Carrie said. Is a person able to market any signage, anything on the side of the road? Are they able to advertise anything without a public report? No. That's a no-no. You cannot market. You cannot put things up for sale. You can't put prices. You can't do any of that. But if you have a lot reservation, that allows you to put up signage or advertise, but for lot reservations only. Lot reservations only. We get into lot reservations. Okay, so lot reservations means that, okay, I'm gonna go in and you basically, you're putting the funds into an escrow account. And you're saying, okay, you could go up to $2,000 of the lot reservation. And as the subdivider, once I have that lot reservation from you, the purchaser, we put that $2,000 in an escrow account. And that basis of that lot reservation means that I need to satisfy you within 2 years, or I need to get my public report. Upon receiving my public report, I have to give you a copy of that within 7 to 15 days, I believe. And once you look at that, you have the right to say, okay, I want my money back. I'm not going to build here anyway. I don't want this subdivision. Or you can say, here's your public report. Is this good with you? Yes, we're going to go forward. You have the public report. Then you can open escrow and you can start your process. Let's go to the next page. What needs to be submitted with your application? Now, this is the meat, generally the meat of the public report. So we always give out a checklist that says that we have to, this is what we have to meet for supporting documentation. Now, this right here is outdated because what we've done is the Department of Real Estate has now gone electronic. So the electronic part is much, much easier because we used to get like 6 to 8 inch thick files that have all this supporting documentation that has to go into the public report process. Now we scan everything in and we submit online. So some of this is different, like the copy of the reported plat has to be 11 by 17. All of that stuff, it doesn't matter. Even our fee payments, you can see the payment for application, whether it's standard or expedited, the public report application to the Department of Real Estate is $450. And the amendments are $250, $100 for the exemption. There's not a cost on the lot reservations, $100 for the subsequent ownership. Now, when you get down to this, you can see that you have certain items for condominiums. You need a declaration and an attorney's opinion letter, and you have to have a declaration condominium regime. You need a title report. You need the Schedule B items that are in that title report. Now we're going to go, let's loop back up. Any material changes. That means on that public report, on that license to sell, you go through that as a purchaser, you see all the Schedule B items that are going to affect your lot or affect the subdivision. If any of those change, if there's a new easement going through there, if there's an amendment of a plat, if there's an amendment of a CC&R, any material change means that you have to amend your public report. Does that always happen? No, but it should. And if something is found out by the Department of Real Estate, if somebody made a complaint and said, look, I got a public report right here, and I know this isn't right, I'm not saying that it happens every time, but it could happen. But the subdivider will be sent a cease and desist order because they have not changed their public report, they have not amended it. And that can hurt a lot of people, especially if you're right in the middle of some escrows, got some closings ready to go, put on the brakes, because we can't do that now until we amend our public report and we get an okay from the department. So I'll let you go through those ADWR, water, ADQ, your sanitary, flood and drainage, tells you everything that we need right there. The entity, if it's an individual, then we need socials. If it's an LLC or corporation, we're going to need all their paperwork, their bylaws, their articles of incorporation, all that good stuff. Certificate of good standing. That's usually one of the most, you need a certificate of good standing, only lasts for 1 year. So every year you need a certificate of good standing. Swipe to the next page. Not every document on the list is required with every subdivision disclosure report application. Each type of report application has its own list of required documents. And it says, see the handout, which you don't have handouts. I'm not in front of you, so I didn't hand anything out. But that being said, you saw the list right there on the prior page of everything that we need for a regular report. Sub X doesn't require that. Sub X, you need to have a title report. You need to have a deed that shows that you are in ownership or that you have an option. So that coincides. So it'll say by option agreement, you know. And then a few other items you need to add in. Of course, if it's an LLC, you need to provide all your LLC paperwork and everything else. Swipe. Next page, Carrie. There you go. And here, this was Isaac's idea because he said everybody loves pizza. So if they can understand how a pizza is made, then they'll understand what goes through a public report. First, you have the crust, you have the sauce, cheese, and toppings. Those are all your requirements. You put it in, make it cook, and then you have your finished slice. So let's go to the next page and we can go through that. What he's talking about in here is when you have, after you have your crust is your plat. Okay, you have to have a plat. If you don't have a plat, you're not going to get a public report if it's subdivision. There are some instances where instead of, they may have a plat already, and I've run into this myself. They had a plat. They did a record of survey. Instead of amending that plat, they did a record of survey to do a lot line adjustment. Any other time in the past, you would have been required to do a new plat, an amended plat. They were flexible with that because they said, if everything, all the dedications, all the easements, everything stayed the same as what was on the original plat of record, they would accept the public report with a survey showing that the lot lines were just adjusted, the pins were just moved, but everything else remained the same. You supply the plat, you supply the record of survey, but you have to get approval for that first. Get some verbal approval or by email. Okay, so infrastructure. We have to call up the electric company, no matter where you are. And all of my group that works in the department, I make sure that they are experts in every county, and that's very, very hard to do. A lot of people only stay with one county. Our group in Pioneer Title Agency, we work on every county in the state. So you really, really have to be on your toes because every county is different. So we have to call up and see what the electric is going to cost. We need to know items like how much is it for the infrastructure? How much is it to run all of what you see right there? The electric, telephone, gas, cable, internet, water, sewage. You know, what does all of that cost from the dirt to the building? How much is that going to cost me, the purchaser? What do I look at? A lot of subdividers will say, you know, I'm building the house. All of those costs are wrapped up in the cost of building the house. But if you're selling vacant land, you have to give that information to the public. And that means that somebody has to call up the electric company and say, how much is it to start up? How much is it for a deposit? How much can I look like? A monthly base fee? How much is the machine? How much is the electric box out there? There's usually a down payment for those. Everything costs. So anything that you're putting out there to the public, you have to let them know what the cost is going to be. It may not be exact, but it's going to be really, really close because they may vary from month to month. Costs go up, costs go down, happens all the time. But the public will have a general idea of what's going on. So everything else right there, you get all these ingredients. We have to get documentation, supporting documentation that we put into the public report. So a lot of people think, well, how hard can it be? Well, you can see the number of phone calls you need to make to get the prices right, the costs right involved. And a lot of times, generically, you could say, okay, from a builder's standpoint, he has a backhoe guy there. That backhoe guy is going to dig all the trenches. What is he going to get? It's going to be $75 an hour for him to do his work and dig those trenches, or it's going to cost $8 a linear foot. They figure that out. They tell us what it would cost, and that's how they figure all that stuff out. Now we take the meat and potatoes out of every document and we put that into the public report. You have to type that in under every category. Let's go to the next page. So you see, once you have all of that information in the public report, you have all your supporting documentation, then you go ahead and you bake that pie. You send it off to the Department of Real Estate. Now, what is very important for people to understand, subdividers, agents, escrow officers, is that once we send that off, we have nothing. We have no control over it whatsoever. We can't call them up and keep on saying, hey, where's my report? I got a guy over here ready to go. We can't do that. It's in their hands. And when they tell us you have a deficiency list or you've been approved for it, that's when we know that we can move on. Now, a deficiency list, in saying that, means that maybe they didn't like the way something was worded. Maybe they need some more supporting documentation. So they're going to send it back and say, you have 15 days to comply with this. So here's your deficiencies. We want this corrected, this corrected, this corrected, and you're good to go after that. So you supply us with those, we'll look at this, but you have 15 days to do it. Usually, typically, if you submit within the day, because usually it's very minor things, and you already should have the bulk of the material in front of you. So usually it's just maybe you forgot a document, maybe you had to change the verbiage a little bit, but as soon as you send that back into them and say, okay, this should comply, usually just like that, you're getting your public report. Let's go to the next page. Pioneer Title Agency Developer Services team members are here to help you assemble your pizza and get it in the oven. Man, I'm just hungry for pizza now. They have the knowledge and connections to help you. We do. We went from basically, I think we went from a 2-person team to, we have probably 6 people now around the state. We have one in Yuma, we have one in Coconino County, we have 3 in Maricopa, and me right here in Payson. So let's go to the next page. Let me go back to what I was saying about that, just so you guys know. Not everybody communicates the same way. I have Liz Sims up in Coconino County, Dale Gonzalez in Payson, I have Isaac Glover in Maricopa, I have Rose Fraze in Maricopa, and I have Matthew Castrovinci in Maricopa County. And with these, if you ever feel like you are not communicating properly, you are not understanding from that person, by all means, we have a group of people, and it is nothing, it is not a bad thing to say, you know what, is there another representative I could talk to? And you could try somebody else out. That is not a big deal. So by all means, we want you to be comfortable. I could say the same thing that Isaac says or Rose says, and you may understand it from me, but you won't understand it from them. It's not a bad deal. We all speak in different ways. Whenever we're saying this, we all come up with the same conclusions. All right, so here's your time frames right here. These time frames, we will never say that you're going to get your public report in a day, in 3 days, in a week, or in 2 weeks. We would never say that. The reason why we would never say that is you have it right in front of you. The administrative completeness review, they have 40 days to do that. All right, they have 40 days. And I see that this has changed too. Deficiency completion period is 40 days. That means that once you submit, if you have deficiency, they have 40 days to go through your file. If you have deficiencies, that goes to 40 days. Completeness review at the department is 60 days. So they have a total right there. And then additional information needed period, they have 40. So they say that the overall time frame is 100 days. 100 days. Whether they take 2 days or they take 100 days, that's their prerogative. And that's what I was telling you guys. We don't call up and say, hey, hurry up, get us our report. We don't do that. That's on the department. They do their time. They know what they could do and how they could get it out. And they've been great at getting things out way before that 40-day period. Way before that 40-day period. But that could change. If they lost a few people in their office and they're in the middle of hiring or training a few people, you might see those numbers. You might see 100 days on the subdivision. But most likely you're not, because they do a great job on turnarounds. Let's go to the next page. How we doing on time there, Miss Carrie?
You're doing great.
All right. All right, under Arizona state law, you may be considered a subdivider if, this means any person who offers for sale or lease, remember what I was saying? There's your statute right there. It also states it again in 322181, which is sale of subdivided lands. So this one says 322101. Subdivider means any person who's offering for sale or lease. Offering. That means they don't have to do any work on that property or anything. If they know that they are going to offer for sale or lease 6 or more lots or parcel or fractional interest, They need to go through the public report process. And I'm telling you right now, we understand. For many, many years, it was, well, they could do 5, but once they get to that 6th one, they have to file. That doesn't fly anymore. That does not. I'm telling you, so you tell your customers that they can most likely expect to go to investigations. And it's unfortunate, but that's where the customer comes in, and it's very important for them to be vocal and say, look, I want to talk to I want to talk to the commissioner. I want to talk to the assistant commissioner. I didn't know I was going to do this. It's been years since I've done this, and I had no clue. That's where it's important, because that could help them, might not, but it's worth a try. You have online. Now, if any of those sales, it's very important. If any of those sales were 10 years or older, they drop off. They drop off. So if they were going through investigations and the investigator said, well, these sales were over 10 years ago, so they have 2 sales, they might have just lucked out, and they might have 2 penalties to pay on. And they figure out what those penalties are, okay? Just as I was saying, we have a good staff. We have many to choose from. I feel like they're all experts in this area, and we do whatever we can to help everybody. Next page. There's a couple of ways that you could do this now. If you're searching for existing subdivisions, our customer service throughout the state can help agents out. And what you could do is you could say, I'm just going to throw a name out there. I don't know if it exists or not, but I'm going to say Cochise Terrace. Cochise Terrace. If I was an agent, I wanted to say, you know what? There's a lot of activity in there. I want a farm kit from the title company that gives me all the ownership in Cochise Terrace. And what you do is you look at that list of all the ownership. And if you're counting those and you go, well, this person owns 10. What's the situation with that? Because you just took this class, you know that anybody who offers 6 or more for sale should have a public report. But the possibility is they may have 10 with their house on it and own all 10 lots, and they don't intend to sell, which is a very good point. The act of purchasing 6 or more lots does not constitute the need for a public report. It's the act of selling that you have to have a public report. We get a lot of calls on that. I'm ready to purchase 20 lots and I need a public report. Where are you going to sell those 20 lots? Well, no. Well, you don't need a public report. Well, but I'm buying them. You don't need a public report if you're buying them. You need a public report if you're selling them. Okay? I'm going to go down a little rabbit hole right here. Who is the entity that is selling those lots or homes? If it's Dale Gonzalez LLC, that public report needs to say it's issued to Dale Gonzalez LLC. If Dale Gonzalez LLC has another LLC called Gonzo LLC, and because of tax purposes and write-offs, I'm going to deed to Gonzo LLC, which is mine. That public report does not work for Gonzo LLC. That public report works for Dale Gonzalez LLC, not my other entity. It's the final entity, and it doesn't matter if I had a Dale LLC, Brian LLC, Gonzalez LLC, and Gonzo LLC. The final LLC that is deeding to the public is who needs to be issued that public report. That's very, very important to know. So you go to the title company, go to the customer service, say, I want a farm kit on this subdivision. Look at somebody who has more than 6 lots, and you know they're doing stuff because they're selling, and you need to go to them and say, hey, have you been through the public report process? Because if you haven't, all it takes is one person to start the investigation, one complaint to start the investigation. It could be anybody. It could be the assessor's office. the assessor's office could say, oh, you know what, we have this person that's already deeded out several. They're the ones that are going to contact the Department of Real Estate and say, hey, we have this person that has already sold several lots and we don't think they have a public report. They're going to throw a cease and desist at them and investigate that. And then there's going to be some fines that run up. So right here, whenever you're checking subdivisions, if you go onto the online services button right there, the information that you get, you could peruse the whole department. If you're looking for a subdivision report, if it's not too old and it hasn't been archived yet, you could get your own public report on it. You can see things. If you had a customer that came in and said, hey, I'm having a problem with this because this developer should have had this done and I don't understand what's going on. You could go in here and pull up that public report. You can also pull up a public report for everything in your counties, your individual areas that you want to look at. If you want information which is given to the public, you want all the goods on that subdivision, you go right there and you put your information in and peruse the whole state if you wanted to. Let's go to the next page. This is what this page is telling you. It's telling you where to go. Online services, and it says public database on there, online licensing. And some of you may be familiar with their website because maybe you're agents or something like that. You got to take your tests, do your classes, do things like that. Let's go to the next. Right here from licensing and searching, right there where it says development services is where you're going to hit search. Go to the next page, please. Search by development name. Right there's the name of your subdivision. You're going to click on that. You're going to say continue. Or you could go into your county. Right there where it says county, you could say all counties, or you could just go into your county, and that would give you all the subdivisions in your county. Let's go to the next page, please. There you go. This is just telling you how to do it. Next page. This is how they come up. Now, this is what's important about this page that I can tell you all right now. Because it says there's a DM number under that registration number, if you see the DM numbers that look like that, what's it right in front of you, you can click on that DM number and get a copy of your public report. If it does not look like that, that means it's too old and it's already been archived and you're not going to get anything out of it. Next page, please. This is, I believe what this part is, this is usually where Isaac takes over. He's really an expert in Mojave County, but it was a difficult, it is a difficult county if it's your first time ever going in there and doing anything. But this is just showing you how you could go into the assessor's office. You could go into any county. I don't know about Cochise, so that could be a tough county to get into. Pima County is a tough county to work with. But if you go in there and you run parcel numbers, that's also a way that you could do that on your own and look at a subdivision. If you have the subdivision, everybody knows the first three numbers is the general big area. Second two numbers breaks it down into a better location. And the last three numbers is going to be your parcel. So the first five numbers will give you your subdivision area. And anything that's within that subdivision, that should be with your first five numbers. Your last three numbers will be your individual lots. So if you run those numbers in the county website, you're going to get everything that's within that subdivision, and they're doing your own thing on a weekend or something. You could go into the assessor's office, you pull up that information, you can say, oh, here's this guy Larry, he has 12 lots right here in the subdivision. I need to call him because he needs a public report. And if he's completely clueless to this process, he's going to say, you mean I could be fined for doing this? You just saved this guy a bunch of money, and he's going to go with you. He's going to say, hey, thanks for taking care of me. How do I do this process? Then you're going to call your escrow officer. Your escrow officer is going to call me, and we're going to take care of it. Next page, please. This is just telling you how to get into Mojave County, but you need to learn how to peruse whatever county you're in. I know there's several different people from several different areas right there in the state. So you need to learn your assessor's office and your numbers in order to know how to find those people. Let's just click through this. That's just more of the same. It's just giving you a general idea. Here you go on this, see how it's giving you a definite location. That's how you find out where your subdivisions are. Let's go to the next page, please. And this is what the assessor's list would look like. So when you're running your parcel numbers, that's going to tell you, you're going to see that. I can't really read what that says, but there's Something Properties LLC, and you're seeing how many they own. And then you already know to go into the Department of Real Estate, run the name of that subdivision, and see if, I think it says Marcella or something, I'm not sure, but you see if they are the ones that have a public report. If they don't have a public report, that's what you bring them in and say, hey, I think I can help you on this. Let's go to the next page. Same thing. And you can get this from any of our customer service offices also. And the department down there, and like I said, they are not many, there are very few. They also have now taken on the investigations for the homeowners association. So they have the homeowners association stuff to deal with as well as a public report process. So these guys are really, really busy. They're stacked and they're stressed. Next page. This is special order exemption. This is kind of what it explains who would be able to file for an exemption if you feel like you shouldn't have to do a public report. I want to say that I just had one recently where there was a cease and desist that happened, and it was because of an amended plat that wasn't done. They filed for a special order exemption because there was an engineer's plat that had been done many, many years ago, but it wasn't included in the original public report, and they were issued an exemption to go ahead and do business without that. So let's go to the next page. I think what we're getting down to right here is this is just general information on the subdivisions, and questions should be, we're at 254 right now, so I'd like to answer some questions if I could, please. Carrie.
I'm coming back.
Okay.
I don't have anything sitting in the chat box, but from people who are watching, but I have some things that you and I have gone through in the last couple of years that I mentioned. So let's just say I'm a realtor or I'm a loan officer. You've walked us through, where can we get data? By the way, there are so many people that are from our sales department that are on this right now, and either they or even going to the escrow officer and asking the questions can be a great resource as well. Because many times when I talk with a realtor or loan officer, where we end up isn't necessarily where they thought they wanted, where they were going sometimes. And we just work with them and create a marketing campaign around them, whether it's letters or what postcards or whatever. So we can really be a good resource from the sales and marketing department as well. But, Dale, at what point does a realtor get chosen when you're walking through a public report situation? When does the builder, the developer, choose the realtor who's going to be supporting the subdivision?
I would say that 9.8% of the time, when you have a developer that is going to start the process, they've already had conversations with certain agents.
Which is why it's important for the realtor, if they're interested in this topic, to do to investigate, just like you were talking about the second half of the presentation, to really dig in, find these people that really could use their help and reach out with solutions. And
that's the importance of the farm kits. If you order a farm kit from customer service on a certain subdivision that you're wanting to crack into, you crack into that, and that's where you go and sell yourself to those people. Say, look, I can help you out with this. I see that you don't have a public report. Do you have a public report already? Do you need that public report amended? Are you thinking of selling, maybe not building out, selling to somebody else? I can help you with all that. That's important for the agents now.
Is it important for the loan officers also? Because I know the subdivision that you and I worked on recently down in Tucson, all the parties that were going to be involved were chosen, you know, way before anybody ever broke ground. And we met about, over time, we were meeting about the marketing, we were meeting about everything from trusts to, I mean, all over the place. But we were really, they established a team at Pioneer for them. And
that team was established, I think, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I think it was 2 years prior. Because you started working on that a whole year, getting the whole group together and saying, okay, this is the direction we're going to go. And now that we all know each other, this is where we're headed. So that could take time on the subdividers part. And especially if they're new to the area, if they're coming from California, Nevada, Utah, somewhere like that, North Dakota, South Dakota, we get a lot of people in like that. And they have no clue that we have a public report process that you have to go through. So then they're sitting there saying, okay, I just bought 40 acres and I'm going to subdivide that thing up and I'm going to make this money. That's why I came down here.
We have a question from out in Mojave County right now. Does a recorded option to purchase create a change in ownership, and how does that affect the public report?
It doesn't create a change in ownership. It's simply first right of refusal. I'm getting an option from you. You own the property. I'm getting an option from you. And that's saying that if I want to buy those lots, I have a first shot at it. If I don't, that still gives you the right to sell those lots. So because you still own the property, I just have an option to it. To solidify that option, and what we've done in the past, and this is something that I had to bring up with the Department of Real Estate, because actually, if I started filing on options with two parties, and the reason for that is party number one bought the section and it's being subdivided, but party number two is a builder. Party number one's not a builder. So party number one's going to give an option to party number two. Neither one of them have a public report. At first, the department was saying that, well, only one of them could be on there and it's the final seller. But now you're knowingly forcing somebody to deed over more than 6 lots, because if you, Carrie, are the owner and I'm the optionee, I'm going to take that option, right? Well, once I get to 6, how many deeds are you doing? You're going to be deeding me 6 times, right? And you don't have a public report to do that. So when we're filing, what the department agreed on with us is that you have both parties on the public report process. One party is the owner, the other one is the optionee. If anybody gets out of that option, the other party needs to amend the public report and only have their name.
I mean, really what I learned so much from you in the time we spent together on the project. And it really does take to create a team of people who are really enthusiastic about getting somebody out of the gate all the way to the finish line. An escrow officer, which we're so proud of the group that we have, and the team that you have is amazing, but also the sales reps that surround our realtors, our loan officers, our developers. I always tell my customers, please put me to work. I'll work so hard for you. And I believe that every one of the sales reps that's on the call right now would feel the same. And whoever invited you today to watch this, please give them a call and have them walk you through this process. There is an entire packet that Dale has that can be emailed. It's quite extensive. And I learned a lot from it as we walked through the time together. But these documents and all the supporting stuff that Dale talked about today, it's available. Just give someone a call. You can give me a call. My phone number is 602-715-5704 if you work with me. If you work with another one of the reps, please call them. But we're here to support. I don't have any other questions that are sitting in the chat box right now. But I know we've had, oh, we have one more now.
I just want to make a quick statement, and that's when, and I could be wrong on the numbers. I want to say that one of my team members, Isaac Glover, we hired him from the Department of Real Estate, so he was in there. He was an examiner. He was an investigator. He was involved in the rules. He was involved in the books. So that was a great hire for us because of the amount of knowledge that he has. And the other one, I wanted to say 28 years, and I could be wrong on that, which is going to drive me absolutely batty. The other one that last year we hired was Rose Fraze, and a lot of people know Rose Fraze because she was with the department for 40 some years, you know. So bringing her on board was a ton of knowledge also.
We're so proud of our Pioneer family. If you're watching us right now and you've not worked with us in a while, please give us a chance to wow you with our passion for the topic, our knowledge about real estate in Arizona. But we hit the 2 hour, or excuse me, the 1 hour mark. And I just want to thank everyone who sat in on the Zoom. I want to thank everyone who watched online. And I'm doing my best to save all the videos for all the different classes I've been doing over the last many weeks. And today I kind of hit a roadblock, like I told Dale. I finally moved out of my office and into my kitchen. So from my kitchen to your kitchen, your office, whatever, I just want to thank you for your time. To our customers, thank you so much for choosing us. I know you have a choice. And just have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. Dale, thanks for your time. I really appreciate you.
Thank everybody for signing on.
And again, thanks for your time today. And the next time you have an opportunity to choose Pioneer Title, we certainly hope that you will put Pioneer on that contract. Thanks so much.